ideas, thoughtfulness, fascinated by the architects, composers, so full of affection and care. By making friends, repleted with ideas, thoughtful, become the city. Each path taken in the new and fascinated by the architects, discover ourselves. The city educates us, care, empowers us. By making friends, repleted with ideas, thoughtful, become the city. Avatars of people, each path taken, culture in the new tradition, fascinated by the architects and the city realizes. Those mansions city educates us, in color, empowers us, in shapes and forms, by making vibrant and activated with ideas, thoughtful, become the city. Avatars of people, each path taken, culture in the new beautiful city, blessed with many new visuals. With you, those listening is immense, full of music. We wanderlust, seeking vibrant and activated with ideas, thoughtful. Avatars of people, each path in culture and beautiful city, blessed with many new visuals. With you, those listening is immense, full of music. We wanderlust, seeking vibrant and activated.
Don't we learn everything from sports? There's a lot to inspire
each
from.
path in culture.
There is a lot to play with.
Blessed and many
Courage to hit back.
with you,
Strategizing.
is immense, full
Team
of
spirit.
music. We wanderlust, seeking vibrant and activated.
Don't we learn everything from sports?
Yes, you are the city, designed to communicate, express, and enrich our sense of self.
Strategizing. Team spirit.
We wanderlust, seeking vibrant and activated.
Learn everything.
It's about each and every thought, born inside us, designed to communicate, express, make our world enrich our sense of self. We are designed to encourage.
Team spirit.
We wanderlust, seeking vibrant and activated.
Learn everything.
It's about each and every thought, born inside us, designed to communicate, express, make our
Yes, I guess that was the introductory video. So let's begin with the session today. Yeah, all good to go. Well, I'm Bhargav Mistry. Dean
Bhargav sir, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Interesting.
Wait a minute. Suddenly, can you hear me? Hello.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Archana ji, what about you? Down. How do we resolve that?
Maybe you log out and log in.
You're mute.
Got it.
Yeah, it was on your side. Yeah.
All right. So I'm Bhargav Mistry from the Arch College of Design and Business, the Dean of Design Culture. And today, on behalf of this college, a very warm welcome to all the wonderful, distinguished panelists sitting here together from, I'll say, incredibly different time zones to discuss matters that we are all passionate about. Design for the new, unpredictable world. To begin with, let me introduce you to Aija Salmi. Aija is the Secretary General at Cumulus International Association of Universities and Colleges of Art, Design and Media. Aya has worked for Cumulus ever since its founding in 1990 by the Royal College of Art and University of Art and Design, Helsinki, Finland. Cumulus is the only global association, I think, representing art, design, media, education, and research. Aya is also the director of international affairs at the School of Arts, Design, and Architecture. And recently, she has also received the prestigious fellowship recognition from the Royal Society for Encouraging Arts, Manufacturing, and Commerce. Welcome, Aya. The next person I'd like to introduce you to is Srinivasan, a charming personality. Presently, Srini is the president of the World Design Organization, which was formerly known as ICSID, ICSID, and working with its global members to promote design for a better world. Srini is the chairman and CEO of Lumium Design Incorporation, a Silicon Valley-based world-class award-winning product design company that has developed over 300 products in the consumer electronics, medical, industrial goods, security, surveillances, etc. And Lumium has a design studios rather, in not just the US, but in India, as well as Japan, and probably more, which Srini will tell us about. And Srini is also on the advisory board with various institutions and helps and mentors technology startups as well as educational institutes. Srini, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhargav. It's a pleasure to meet.
Great to meet you again. Yeah, I mean, though virtual. Yeah, I remember the 2018 visit. We had a very good time then.
Yeah.
Archana Surana, another leader of design. She's the founder and director of the Arch College of Design and Business. Archana Surana she successfully carries over, forward the legacy of over 20 years, being the founder and director of Arch College of Design and Business, and as a contributor in the space of youth and women empowerment. She has also established strong pathways in design education, as well as mentoring through the Women Mentors Forum founded by her. She is the Dean of Fashion Design and Fashion Design Faculty and Academic Council member of Rajasthan ILD Skill University. She is also a member of the CII, that is the Confederation of Indian Industries, the National Council for Design, and member of Skill Development at CBSE, that's the Central Board of Secondary Education in India. She's a vital voice lead fellow at the UI Awardee at the hands of the former Indian President, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So once again, big welcome to all, and I think we can proceed with being the moderator. It's not such a simple task, but I would like to, and it becomes easy when you have to fire questions rather than answer them. So I'm not going to fire questions, but I'm going to lead you into some sort of a discussion, which I think will be synergistically it will accumulate towards hopefully a better tomorrow. So you see, times are trying. Over the past 2 years, we've undergone some of the most challenging times. And a lesson learned is that the unpredictability of future is too complex and ambiguous to fathom. When it comes to progress or even survival in such a scenario, of wise design leadership would be crucially an important factor. Now, in this world of humongous amount of information, an old adage said by some very impressive, really impressive person, an old adage that comes to my mind is, in this, shall we say, industry 4.0 or 5.0, where communication is the center of everything. The adage says that a bundle of data is a speck of information. A bundle of information is a speck of knowledge. And a bundle of knowledge is a speck of understanding. And a bundle of understanding is a speck of wisdom, which I think we lack in, at least I lack in. Now, need of the times is for design leaders, like at least the people I see here with me today, to empower this wisdom to effectively contribute in this world that is today more governed by the principles of chaos than order. So my question, or rather my point for discussion, is what constitutes this design leadership? What is the skill and knowledge that is required to negotiate this uncertain world that has become our new norm, I'll say new abnormal? It'll be great to hear your views on this. So I mean, we can start off a discussion with this. Srini, Aya, Archana ji, anyone. I mean, I leave it to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Borgo. I think it's an interesting start to the panel. And before we begin, I would like to officially congratulate Archana and also the Arch Academy for completing 20 years. It's a great virtue, and it's not easy to run an institution, whatever time it may be. And it's really great to see the 20 years of successful completion of design education. Absolutely. And also promoting art. So my hearty congratulations to you, Archana, on this fantastic feat and achievement. So with that, I think, of course, so data leads to knowledge and in some way or the other, right? And then knowledge leads to wisdom. And to me, knowledge and wisdom are also equivalent to power, right? If you know, then you have the power to control, the power to manipulate and manage, and then be successful in the right way. Okay, we are not talking the wrong ways out here. So in my mind, I think the design leadership, for that matter, any leadership, comes with two important aspects. One is courage. That's the first one that, the leaders have. They have the courage, and also they have the confidence. So if you just have courage, that's not enough. You need to have the confidence. And on these two important pillars comes the knowledge or the wisdom that you gained over a period of time. And that's what, you are able to, when you predict something as a leader, you're always looked upon by the others who are following you. So when they follow you, they always look saying, what is it that, we can do for tomorrow, which we all don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I think that is where the leaders are saying, Carter, people have come from the same place, come from the same world. They're not, they're also human beings, they're not superhuman, come from a different place to tell you what to do tomorrow, having some knowledge of what can be done tomorrow. It's just that you have the courage matching with the wisdom and the confidence that I'm going to say this, and I'm also going to make sure this will happen. I think that's where the power comes in, because, you say, hey, I want you to do this, or let's do this together as a teamwork, and then we will see where we go. And the leaders are also not afraid to make changes, because we don't know. We are always, going into the world of unknown. I really don't know what the design trend is going to be next month. Or for that matter, when the Christmas comes, in 2 months, we don't know what's going to be the new trend. But we do venture into the word venture is key here, right? Because you're going to the unknown out here. The word is very key. So we just try and figure out what may be. And of course, there are a lot of tools, to do to collection of data. I'm just kind of connecting all the points that you mentioned. Data is very key in today's world. So you collect the data of what could be the future, and then you take the decision based on your courage, confidence, and the wisdom that you've gained.
The creative confidence, right? Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Srini. That's very well kind of put. And I think Aya will also probably like to say something to this. Or,
Yes. Thanks. Thanks for the invitation to join this great session. And as Srini already said, I'm going to rehearse that. Congratulations for your anniversary. Unpredictability, it's never ending. Everybody knows that. It's interesting. And because I'm representing education and research, I think uncertainty is the only certainty. And it creates for creative youngsters, creative people, the right soil to bring forward something good as well for tomorrow. And so this is the thing, that there must be freedom within curriculum to collaborate with profession and business and industry. Srini just mentioned, I wrote it down, that data is dictating. But on the other hand, if we live in unpredictable times, honestly, okay, is it power or is it a matter of trust? Can we trust on that data? So design has a lot of potential, because I think design is not, or design leadership is not tied to some structure that it has to follow all the time. So there is the freedom one way or other.
Yeah. Really, I mean, yeah, because it is definitely fluid, and I mean, not tied to a structure, though people do follow design methodology, which itself is a structure, but within that structure, there is like fluidity. I quite get that. Thank you, Aya. And we can, I think it's an interesting ball that we're rolling further. It's gaining momentum and mass. So Archana ji, maybe you'd like to add something.
Yeah, so wonderful that we've been talking about uncertainty and we've been talking about the unknown realm. And this is not something new. I think it has always existed, and that's how it's been all throughout centuries. And yet, civilizations have grown, cultures have evolved, countries have come up with their own identity. And I think it's very important when we look at design leadership, that how do we nurture this identity that others can resonate with and we can look up to. So I think it's a point of time when the world has really gone flat. There is so much that is so common, and people are again trying to come back to that little connect of who you really are. And I think that's very important in terms of, again, looking at a culture of design. And when we've been talking about culture, but today when we talk about a culture of design, every community, every country, every province, they have their own ways of being, of connecting with their environment. I think somewhere those environments are very, very important, and we need to relive those environments. And that's where I feel that, rather than just aping somebody else or a different culture, it's again time to look at one's own identity and reestablish what fits well for our people, our surroundings, our environments. So I think that uncertainty and that connect, I think it's a beautiful combination. And I think it's again time to reestablish that. So with the design leadership, where empathizing truly would mean first looking within the inner, your own space before actually looking out for solutions from somewhere else, from another part of the world.
Yeah.
That's where it's occurring to me.
Yeah. I think that's also very. In fact, what you just said reminds me of something which I'd like to share with you before we lead on to the next point of discussion. And what you just talked about, in fact, all of you talked about, is basically the theme of what we are planning to do, the Pink City Design Confluence. We're talking about form, reform, and transform. Like what was formed, how it has been reformed, and what sort of transformation it is heading towards is the moot point of discussion. And I think I'd like to, steal this little opportunity to talk a little about the Pink City Design Confluence. So may I please request the people on the backstage to show me the right. So I'm going to share this screen here. So what we are basically talking about is the design culture, basically, and design leadership, design culture. Now, what the dialogues that we are having and is slowly leading towards the Confluence on 27th and 28th of January, and we're really, hoping that you will join us in this. But for all the other viewers here, also, I think it's important to. It will be interesting to know, and so that you can participate in it. So, can you go to the next information page? Yeah. Form, reform, transform is the theme of this Confluence, in which there are sub-themes, which are creativity 5.0, society 5.0, harmonious livability, and design leadership. So if you have anything which relates to this, you are welcome to join here by way of research papers, by participating in design awards, design story, and we're going to have a design-a-thon also. So it'll be great if you participate in this from the viewers. I'm saying the people who are, with us as audience here. Let's go to the next one and look at the scientific committee of the PCDC is, of course, Pink City Design Confluence. We have prominent and eminent scientific committee who will, guide us through our papers and the other creative things that you'll participate with it inside. Of course, you can go through this in the website at your leisure time. I'll quickly run through just 2 more pages. Can we shift to the next one? Yeah. And for the design awards, this is the jury, the former director of NID, Professor Pradyumna Vyas, Ashwini Deshpande, Satish Gokhale, Dr. Vishal Rao, Alok Nandi. They are all prominent personalities in their fields of design domain. The next one, design story. What is the design story? It's basically anything that inspires you, which touches you, which moves you. You can create a short minute video reel or a couple of photographs, illustrations. All this is very well explained on the brochures and websites. And that's a jury. And the next one, yeah. And the ecosystem partners are what we see here, the WDO, Cumulus, IFTI, the Jaipur Literature Festival, Thai, Rajasthan, Rain, and so on. So do join us for this. This is especially for the people who are there in the audience. Thank you for sharing this screen. And can we get back to take this further, rolling into the interesting dialogue that we were having. I mean, I've been, so immensely kind of impressed by the kind of things that I see you doing. And you have been with the Cumulus for almost over 30 years, if I'm not wrong. And you have played a major leadership role to collaborate at various levels with the World Design Academia and bodies like the World Design Organization. And interestingly, we are together right now. Now, it will be interesting to hear, Aya, from you about how you've seen the changes and transformations in arts and design world, and how you collaborate with industries, with the academia. What is the methodology? How does one go about it? And probably what should be the next step in the current scenario? I hope this will be interesting for you to take us through a little peek view into your thoughts.
Where to start? Not to rehearse the same, everybody knows, our audience and the four of us here at the stage, that the way of educating designers, I guess, is probably the same as it was 30 years ago or before. There are same elements. That's the methodology to educate the designer. That's for sure is taking place by now. What is the development over the years? For me, it's easy to talk about internationalization. And within that, it's been interesting to learn how academia have been being seen the value of collaboration with other academia or organizations, and further seeing how this is a massive value for the students. And then further on one step, how this impacts the environment around when the students graduate and go to work. So very positive development over the planet, and to simplify that the number of educating institutions has been growing in 30 years. Do we know how many designers are there on the planet? Srini might be answering or giving some direction. Okay, that's one thing. What worries me, especially you were mentioning business and industry, my question, I'm saying it everywhere, that do we as educators collaborate enough with profession, with industry and with business? Also, so that everybody benefits, that we are not in a competitive situation that it causes a kind of vicious cycle. I can't define what is the semantics of saying vicious cycle, but positive development has been taking place, and there's massive responsibility by design because it's everywhere. Okay, sustainability is the top thing. That was already mentioned and started to be implemented in education in 1980s roughly. Hey, let me jump over a bit to the back, to the discussion we already had, that I'm asking who rules education? Who is the clever one to educate with the right content, right people? So I think this all is based only on dialogue between the environment around universities, for instance. And this can't be taking place in a proper way without having proper dialogue. I mean, dialogue is very open wording, but finding ways to collaborate with profession, industry, and business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I packed a massive message within this sentence, but I hope you've been able to pick up something And this is non-stop dialogue, I guess it's still going on, and all the time going on between education and like organization. Srini is representing, or Srini representing his own company. And are these graduates, are they capable to work? So it echoes back to the curriculum, etc., etc. But
Yes.
and then the element of research, which gives freedom, so that the research makes outcomes not only dictated by industry and business. And there we are back again. Their uncertainty is the most important tool for certainty, or on reciprocally.
Yeah. Yes, Srini, I see you quite enamored by what she's talking about, and maybe you'd like to add to it. But before we do that, there is another interesting thing which I picked up from you, Aya. As you were talking about how many trained designers do we have on the globe today. I was looking at it from a different perspective. How many latent designers do we have in the world today? Latent, meaning we don't see them as designers. They are what do you call them? The unsung heroes, unsung designers. And I have a feeling that they outnumber the trained designers. I may or may not, but I have a feeling. Is there any way, should we, as trained designers, interfere in their way of life, or should we leave it as it is? That's another question if you want to just look into it.
Srini, I guess you have something on your tongue.
Thank you. I think I'll come to that question before I answer the other ones. I think Aya has touched upon a very important aspect of our modern way of looking at things. Pandemic or no pandemic or post-pandemic, I would readily agree with her that there is not enough cooperation between the industry and the university systems. Various reasons, political reasons, economic reasons, cultural reasons, whatever be the reasons, there is not enough cooperation. And also, with no offense to the industry, I'm part of the industry in one way, and I'm also part of the organization in another way to more policy making. There is some amount of fear, because most of the industry is driven by profit motives and return on investment and things like that. So at times, they tend to say like, oh, we need to do what we need to do and what we have to do, rather than spend our time learning, what is new or how do we go about and things. This is very general, no specific company that I have in mind to say this. I think that's something in general we need to do. And even between organizations such as, Cumulus and WTO, we have signed an MOU, but, we're still learning how to work with each other. Even though we know each other, we've been in a relationship for more than 20 years, but we still are not progressing enough, in my opinion, to take advantage of the vast knowledge base and the connections that both the organizations are having. So I think that's there's nothing wrong, everybody's great friends and we have excellent relationship, but we have not invested in enough time to get to see we know each other, but what can we do together is something that we are still working. And I'm very hopeful that we are getting there very soon. That's something that, I has been pushing constantly, and I've been pushing constantly within our membership and the board. I think, we will see something happening. But the point is, you should never give up. There's always, something or the other will stop, but you keep pushing enough. Take, for example, even in the curriculum. So now let's talk about pandemic and the post-pandemic. During the pandemic, for certain faculties of design, it becomes very difficult to have a job shadowing, for that matter, right? Or for that matter, doing an internship. Imagine if you're doing a fashion design or a standard product design that involves technology. It's impossible for anybody to learn how to do the cut and sew in a digital world. Of course, people say, what should we do? Think digital. Oh, sure, I'm thinking digital, no problem. But I don't know how to use my tools to get there. We can see enough YouTube videos, but
Right.
it's not the same experience in terms of the touch and feel, the tactile feelings of materials that you need to do. I think that's the biggest challenge when it comes to design education. See, other things we can do. You can get your apparatus at home. You can do some level of basic chemical testing at home. You can create a lab, but it's impossible to get people to do things at home, which needs constant interaction with people. So I think that's one of our biggest challenges when I'm teaching, in other universities in other parts of the world. Unfortunately, online, it has given me such a headache. I don't know how else. We need to do a lot more planning. Of course, it's all being done. We are learning how to make changes.
Right.
So in two things we need to do. One is break into short assignment. In a normal lab, people working for 8-9 hours. You can't do that digitally. You start people falling off, right? People just don't have the ability to focus on a digital screen. Maybe 2 hours is max, 4 hours is max. So I think that's what we need to learn, how to bifurcate those things into multiple smaller chunks and come back and then do that. And then, of course, there are creative methods. People can, we can readjust the economic model, saying that, oh, instead of paying me the fees, go buy a sewing machine yourself, right? You're going to get that credit. Go buy something. And then start doing that so that we can show digitally what you're doing and how you're making mistakes and things like that. I mean, it takes a lot of planning. And then the other thing is communicate more effectively. If you thought you are a great communicator during in-person scenario, you will be finding it disappointingly that you are not as effective as a communicator on the online media. It takes a lot of planning. It takes, you have to anticipate anything and everything. That's where the current trends are, where people are learning how to use the online media and make it still effective and interesting. The two aspects, right? We need to be effective, and then we also make it interesting. Otherwise, people drop off. See, anytime somebody puts their video off, and then that they are not glued on, because they could be doing a lot of other things, just by shutting the video, right? Right. So that's where I think, in the classroom, I always tell people, if you're turning off the video, please tell me before so that I can turn my video off and shut myself so that, we don't have to talk more. So I think that's what is the current situation. So
that's pretty encouraging. And what I really liked, I really caught in your this thing that, yes, we shall get there, that confidence. And allegorically speaking, the bridge behind you says that we will get there. It's not too long. I know,
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to say something.
Yeah. So,
go ahead, Aya.
Huh?
Archana
wants to say something.
Just to bring one topping on the pizza we are talking about, that keeping in mind that talking about educational institutions, again, the question, who rules? So a number of them are under government, they are under ministry funding. And then the question, how free the institution is to, how to say in English, reset the content of the curriculum, be quick enough to respond, for instance, what Srini has been saying.
Right.
So there are these dictators dictating us that prevent us to do what they are, or somebody else is asking us to do, or we see as a community that we should be changing things into some or another kind of direction. So the dictators dictate because they give indicators that the universities have to follow. Okay, and the private institutions, there are dynamic ones like yours. It depends, of course, on the governance system or the city or the environment or the state of affairs of business, industry, and design in the country. Private ones are sometimes quicker to respond to or not. There are legislation and a lot of things like that to realize. So so it's again this unpredictability, uncertainty. Is it true or not? And how we can collaborate again to develop this side.
Right. Thanks, Aya. That's answer. But I think Archana, you wanted to mention something. I mean, within whatever time we have. Yeah.
Interesting how Aya started was that there isn't enough, initiative in terms of looking at the academia industry partnership and collaboration. And while Shini talked about the gap in terms of, having, how effectively we can use the online medium to actually co-create or maybe even the kind of results that we need to produce. So one thing that's occurring to me, just because I was sitting on the CII National Committee for Design, and so we have these two other, subcommittees. One was to look at the policy thing, and one was looking at how the MSMEs, the micro, small, medium enterprises, need to get connected with the design firms, right? So most of it, it came that, that not many people even understand where and how design would be applicable, right? How would, definitely we all know that because we are a part of that world. So we know that design brings that competitive advantage, right? How many people really know? How many MSMEs really know? And when we look at the academia and the industry partnership, I was mentioning that when we look at CSR kind of initiatives, why not the industry look at doing partnerships within their own territory and supporting the educational institutions and, co-creating with them. But I'm seeing that things are changing, This time, we're just signing one with Gossil Exports. They're large time exporters, in jewelry. And they were the ones who came to us and said, we want to do a partnership with you. We want to make sure that we do your classroom projects. We take your students for internships. We are looking for brighter people. So there's a lot of design, creative leadership that is now emerging as the world has gotten flat, which we do have the merits and the demerits both ways. But I do see that there is this opening that people now know that design is the way we can, differentiate. It is the differentiator. It is the way how we can actually stand apart in the crowd. So I think it's getting there, and it's very interesting that forums like Cumulus, the kind of partnerships you've been able to initiate, you've been very liberal about it, So I just shared with you that I'm coming to Finland in November, and it all came because of the Cumulus network, because of how the institutions in Finland or in Belgium, they connected with us and said, we were looking at social and sustainable entrepreneurship, and we're looking at a project. We're looking at how in different parts of the world are these concepts understood. And we would like to work together to figure out how we can learn from the best practices from each other. But the online medium definitely has gotten, like, look at Srini, it's morning 5 a.m. in where he is from. And how he's available to us, which wouldn't have been possible if it would not explored this platform as it was even earlier available before COVID, but we never explored it enough. So I think we are in a beautiful time where it's all about doing it and then just seeing how it works for, So again, it's beautiful that, we all were so fond of the word disruption, that we had all the disruptive models of startup and the fast growth and everything. And when this big, we need to embrace this disruption as well. And I think how fast we evolve with it, the better it is. And I think each one of us is doing in their own way, because the context is very different for each one of us. and our people are different, how they respond is different, how our cultures are, adapting to it. There's a whole different environment. I do see that there's a lot of, overwhelming kind of thing, because everything is so fast around us now that it's actually overwhelming, and how to stay balanced, how to keep one's, energies intact. I think without, that's where I think more of the design and creative challenges now going to be. So while we've been trying to, in our design confluence, we're trying to address what would creativity mean in this new normal. When everything is so open, everything is available. Now, creativity would really require a whole different, approach, maybe. So very interestingly, so I think, collaboration is the best way to go about, as both WDO and Cumulus, I think these are forums that we're very proud of being a member, because of the kind of, initiatives that you bring forward. And I just was looking at the WDO initiatives of bringing women into the fold. Talking about women empowerment, talking about the SDGs, which probably even, women in design kind of thing that Cumulus is doing, right? So I think there are a lot of interesting things that are happening, and the idea that what Bhargav sir actually started out with, that design, we are not talking about those the unsung heroes, or the ones who are actually design practitioners, but they're not trained designers. So while we were just deliberating, and we said that for design leadership, you don't need to be a design practitioner.
Yeah.
Design is again a way, it's a competency, it's an ability, it's something that you have you nurture over a period of time. It's not that you can be, only if you're taught you can. But I think with a lot of institutions teaching, I think it's going to be more readily available to a lot of people who've not known about it. So it's very interesting. I think the conversation, the way it's unfolding, it's really inspiring for me.
Surely, it's in fact accumulating fairly well into but I think at this point in time, now that we've almost crossed over half the time, almost more than 45 minutes, let's try to involve the audience a little bit in this, people who are part of this. There are some polls, like questions, and from there on we'll take on our conversation a little further. So Megha in the backstage, or Sarang, can you please show us the poll? There you are. This is for the viewers, the participants who are the audience. What sort of leadership will help in resolving socio-cultural conflicts? Leadership with political approach to problem solving, design approach to problem solving, administrative approach to problem solving, managerial approach to problem solving, or a combination of all. All right, which is the next one? What characteristics will define design leaders? Then there'll be some, that's another MCQ. All right, there you go. There's combination of all. Okay, interesting. We cannot see the, okay, I can, all right, okay. I hope on the panel you are able to see this.
No.
The second question. No, yes or no?
No for me.
Oh, okay. The second question says, what characteristics will define design leaders? What characteristics? And the options are creative approach to problem solving. Second is understanding the needs and challenges of people. Third one is understanding the root cause of a challenge. And fourth is developing a line of action for solutions. But then everybody says all of above, just like in question number 1. Question number 3, the last one is it important to teach design thinking, or building design ability during the administrative services training. By administrative service training, we mean in India, it's the Indian IAS, the UPSC. 50% say yes, nobody says no, and 50% says maybe. Interesting. Now, that's something debatable. Wait a minute. Now, things are changing as results are pouring in. What in question number 1 was combination of all, it still is combination of all as 83%. 33% is administrative approach. Design approach to problem solving is 33%. Political approach to problem solving is 0%. I don't know why, but I don't want to get into that either. In the second question, creative approach to problem solving is 17%. Now, the question was, what characteristics will define a design leader? So, creative approach, 17%. Understanding the needs and challenges, 33%. Understanding the root cause of challenge, 17%. Developing a line of action for solutions, 17%. All of the above, 67%. And the last question is, of course, administrative services. It's 50-50. Let's call this as the end of the poll and see the results. Are you able to see the results?
Now I can see it.
Okay. I was given the option to show the results at this point in time, so I think it's visible. Right, so there we go. Maybe this can lead us into some further conversations. Share the results, and then I will stop sharing. Okay. Interesting. Administrative services, and 50% yes, 50% no. I don't know how it is in your part of the country, in Finland, in the United States. The administrative services, design leadership, its role. I mean, in the form, here say 50 yes, 50 no. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
I think, WDO's one of the initiatives that we started a few years back is to influence the city and the governments into taking initiative. If it's going to be a large infrastructure project, you cannot say the polls are, one thing, but you cannot say like the political will is not there, you cannot move on with that project, right? So we certainly need them to be educated on design.
Absolutely.
And also the creative thinking. So therefore, we must encourage cities. In fact, that's what WDO did. And Helsinki is a very classic example. When we said we need one leader who could influence the government to come back and do things. And they brought about the chief design officer. It's also pertinent to say here, the chief design officer of that time, when it was 2012, when Helsinki became Finland became, Helsinki became the world design capital. Eventually, Petro also became the mayor of one of the cities. So which means, from being a design catalyst for the government, they also can play a major role by becoming the political leader, which means, design policy making will make things go much, much faster. Again, going back to Archana's previous point about the partnerships, in today's world, IP is a critical element. And part of the reason why the industry is not keen to participate in partnership with the academic institutions is the IP policy of the universities. I don't know about in India, but in the US and Western world, the universities want to own everything. There needs to be a policy change. If supposing we collaborate with some university here in US, the first thing will be they ask us to sign an IP agreement, which whatever we create during, I donate my time, but the IP would be belonging to the university. This is a major drawback why industries pull back and they're not really keen to go. I mean, of course, the Googles of the world and the Apples of the world have the power to knock that university down. But you're talking about smaller industries, they cannot go. But at the same time, like what I have said, if it is a private institution like Arch, then they have the power to say, I don't want the IP, I just look at the creativity, and it gives me and my students the ability to think like an entrepreneur. That's a different skill that they are teaching, they are taking into account. They don't look at the millions or billions of dollars that might be made. I mean, startups are not easy. Just because you have an idea, you don't think you'll make $1 billion, but that's a different subject. So, but they don't get involved thinking, oh, my idea is worth $1 billion. So I think this is an important policy. Therefore, clubbing all these points together, it's an important aspect that design leadership is very much present in the political environment. Only then cities will progress.
You're absolutely right, because I mean, here we see it lacking. It's slowly, very slowly, but at almost a snail's pace. It's coming up, but it'll take a lot of transformation before that truly happens. Before we see the way things happen in Finland, or for that matter, in even the US. Absolutely true. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the one that Srini that you did at Hyderabad. That was again one of the India cities that was chosen as a design. And I think it was very interesting getting the whole city engaged and people getting the whole sense of a global community coming together, the connections, the vibe of knowing that, how you can connect the dots. I think that's very, very important. And, it was occurring to me that within the India design policy that they are looking at, again, putting into place, putting some new parts to it. I think it would be very interesting to look at, an India design capital, if it's a CII forum or whatever it is, look at a design capital within the country itself while you are doing it globally. I think it's a great movement that countries can adopt. And I think political leadership and political will is very, very essential for any transformation to take place. And they are the leaders who read the form, the reform, and the transform has to most happen there. Because people amidst us who are reaching there, right? And if they are the one who are the influencers, then why not start from top to bottom approach? So that's going to be very critical. I think that's a great valid point that has been put up. And as you've already emphasized, because Finland is one of the countries that people look up to for any kind of creative leadership. After the World War, the way this, the country was under challenges, and then Alto, the architect who rebuilt the whole, kind of ecosystem there. I think it's a great example to look at in terms of learning, and the education system that has been built. It's all about the leadership, the political leadership actually who nurtured it. Have I understood it correctly, Aya?
Yes, you have. Yes. My message would be that we have to ensure people understand, decision makers, everybody, what's the value of the thing what we do together.
If you do look at down south in India, the way IT boom has happened, how the whole information technology culture has evolved, it's all because of the political leadership that has supported the startup ecosystem within the state. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible with all the IT hubs and parks that have been created. And I think and in fact, political stability is very important for any nation to actually evolve and grow. So that's where I think, the cooperation, the collaboration between, the right and the left is very, very critical too, in terms of looking at when we look at a larger purpose. So Srini, because you are sitting and you are actually talking to a lot of, I just had this question, what is that one key thing that you can, when you touch upon, when you are meeting these political leaders, what is that you try and actually, that chord that you are touching that really gets them to think differently?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think one of the things the political leader wants is his party or his position or his things to be shining, right? And the key indicators for a city or a government is economic development. and the economic development can be enhanced through the lens of design, is the message, right? It's been proven in many of our WDC events where the city benefits for whatever, if they spend 1 unit of whatever currency, they get at least 1.5 to 2.2, that's a very appealing and very strong motivation for them, because they do spend money, like in terms of, their day-to-day life, in terms of their waste management, if they're taking care of city, taking care of the elders. All these are urban problems that no city is not dealing with. So every city is dealing with these kind of problems. So what design can do is go to the same problem areas, relook at the problems, meaning, from the form, we reform and then transform into more clearly winnable solutions through the design. So that's the message that is undeniably appealing to any of the political leaders and the governments, because they want to make sure that they want to come back to power, right? That's something that every party aspires, every leader aspires, that he or she would be the most talked about leader of a particular region. And then economic, what do people want? They want better lifestyle. And our motto for the World Design Organization is creating a better world through solutions that are appealing to the communities. And that's what we do. And so far, every city that I've gone and talked to, even though they have not ended up in getting to a big program, because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of, investment in terms of getting to that. But every one of them aspires, because I'm able to light the, torch of, enlightenment for them in terms of saying, what can design do? I think that's what we need to do as a collective force, whether you're an educator or you're a nonprofit association promoting design and design education. I think it's important for us to believe, have the confidence that yes, and design, as we all see, today we don't have to sell design. Everybody knows design is needed. Everybody knows design brings prosperity. So we need to use that phrase more effectively in our arguments or in our presentations.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a real good way of putting it, Srini. Thanks. I'm really curious. I mean, I don't have too much knowledge about things the way the design world of Finland or the Scandinavian countries, the way they operate. I mean, maybe you'd like to throw some light on this and how it kind of makes things far more better as a way of life, sustainability. Because Finland is a classic example of design. I mean, I know I've seen finished products, and not just products, systems, so many things. Yeah, people.
Small country, that might be beautiful to say again. You might be better to explain what is the tradition, where the tradition comes, like the University of Art and Design Helsinki, that was the other founder of Kumulus, was founded in 1871 already, among the oldest ones in Europe. And where this is based to, I can't explain. People had to live, and as Srini just said, design brings prosperity. So it's been like a positive snowball effect. So far, I've understood that we are not a country doing small products to be sold, but more steel paper or things like this, sort of mass production. Please correct me. One of the success elements was that we were under Russia, but somehow able to go to Paris World Show in 1900 and exhibit there as a country. that created trust and interest among the world. So I'm getting back to the collaboration and partnership. Okay, Srini was saying things, Helsinki as an example, that again, it goes back to people. If people understand, they value that design brings prosperity. So, and education has a role, and education has massive responsibility. And Archana said that there are designers that are not educated as a designer. That's also under discussion in educational institutions. And Srini might be also commenting what's the orientation by an organization like WTO to these guys that do not have a degree, etc., etc. A lot of issues we can talk about and think how we could be developing not only one country or one city, but the planet together forward.
Yes. So basically, you're talking about a systemic approach and culture and so many things put together. Yes, I could quite understand. Yeah. So let me not call it the final question because it may lead into some other discussion points, but I'd like to aim the needle of my compass towards Naji. Well, Archana, you've been, a great example of a design leader also. Let me put it this way, at least in this part of the world. Here in Rajasthan, in Jaipur. And as you're not just the founder and promoter of Design College, which has trained successful designers almost for over 2 decades. But you also connected very well with decision makers, policies. And I know it's been a very, very difficult journey, especially in that part. Training designers is one thing. Having successful designers is one thing. And those successful designers who have, a lot of them have become design leaders also. So that itself is success. But then, directly dealing with industry, you also have an industry and you're also well connected in the policy making authorities. So it'll be very interesting to have listened to some snippets, if you can share about how it has evolved and how further Arch what pathway it ought to take in coming times. I hope I've been rather lucid in my curiosity.
That's kind of you, Bhargav sir. So very interestingly, I'd say, creative entrepreneurship is something that my heart connects with. So when I look at the word creativity, it's all about connecting the dots. So, the dots are not that, it's not in a structure where you have a 3-year course that you connect the dots. It's your childhood, your adolescence, the upbringing, the city that you've lived into, or, where you were born, and then it all comes together. So when you can actually connect these dots and then you can see an opportunity, I think that's where probably anything can happen. And so for me, when I look at, I don't know whether I've created designers, but I definitely have created people who are adaptive and resilient and who can see an opportunity. And I think seeing an opportunity is very, very important for any human being, because that fulfills oneself and others around us. So that's how, my journey has shaped up from a very small, humble beginning, from just 2 rooms from my own house, the setup to where we are members with Cumulus and WDO. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs have this journey of having a very humble beginning and then moving on. So I'm sure Srini is also an entrepreneur who,
Absolutely.
right from down south to Ahmedabad and then to the Silicon Valley. So creative entrepreneurship lives very close to my heart. And looking at the government again, as we talked about with Aya and Srini, both of them, and without a political will, things don't move. And India, when we look at as a country and as a nation, I think engineering and management had become the two big key words here. Where design, I feel we've not done justice, of not having design start much early. While and we thought of being more towards being a service industry than actually being a creator's land, which we actually were. So we've always taken our own things for granted, assuming that we've got all these people who are already creators, our craftsmen. People say you have dinosaurs on your streets. One of this London Royal College of Art professors from London said, you've got dinosaurs on your streets, because we have a living traditions alive. We have our crafts which are alive. Yeah. So we never thought that this unorganized sector, which is our strength, needs to be further stabilized in terms of a format that could be understood by the world. So how craft is understood in different parts of the world, India understands it very differently. For us, it is livelihoods. For us, it's people. It's about the knowledge systems. It's not about an individual creating a piece of art or something of that sort. It's much more. So I think there is a whole big opportunity that lies in this land. And probably as an entrepreneur, I could see it. And that's what I've tried, our students to also be able to see that, believe in the self and then probably express yourself. And yes, getting these degree pathways was a big pain. Because, while the universities still were offering the traditional programs and was happy having loads and numbers of students, why would they even take up design when you have all the artisans, the craftsmen, the weavers, everybody doing it? So if people wanted to learn it, go and learn it on an apprenticeship model, or go and work with these people. Why would you need a formal education pathway, right? So I think somewhere, the whole idea of design, which was more about beautification or the aesthetic understanding, has now gotten deep-rooted that design is just not that. Design is in every bit of our lives. And I think with the CII doing the Design Summit for almost 2 decades, I'm sure that, these initiatives that they have nurtured with the government, with eminent institutions like the NID, but I strongly feel that our nation has somewhere not embraced design, which we should have done as a formal education pathway. And, as other developed nations, we could have, we could have taken the advantage of this much earlier. So while I look at, again, what you said, that what keeps me up there is learning from Srini and Aya and a lot of industry people, because I'm an entrepreneur. So I happen to sit with in the entrepreneurial ecosystem with angel investors and, all these people. So I think it's important to continuously build one's vision, the exposure that one can bring to oneself and their students, So that's what that's what is key at the heart of Arch, having students really find the connections across the globe and what fits well with them. They have their own choices to make. So that's where I feel that the journey has been somehow interesting and viable as well. And we look forward to a more interesting future. Mm-hmm.
And also, I'd say the way you've thought about spreading designability with young learners, meaning at school levels, that itself, it's a commendable thing. I think even Aya is talking about, you've also been doing it. And I think that's really great to know, because this is what we need today. It's
So
at
does it
that
mean,
level.
Sagar sir, as you are with me, and then at the middle school level, the Central Board of Secondary Education has introduced design thinking at level 6 in the
Yeah.
school education system at the middle school now, which is a part of the national education policy, the new national education policy that is addressing that design thinking needs to be taught at much earlier at the school level. And we are helping schools to actually build a culture of design and design ability, both for the faculty to learn, take on new trainings, and for the students to actually also start much earlier, as
Yeah. Yeah.
education has become now a very important aspect of the early school education system now, with design embedded with it. So I think there's a great opportunity for institutions across the country to actually build a culture of design in the country now. Hopefully, with the fast stage that we are into, we're going to move much faster now, looking at embedding this whole culture of design. So while we did have the design cultures, the conference at Rome, so there was a dialogue with Lorenzo, looking at so he was curious that what is this design culture that you're talking about. We did design cultures, so he was it had all about food, different kind of things that there's a culture of the design that has got into it. But when we are talking about a culture of design, we are talking about the whole idea of the ADIPT process, which is very simple. I mean, it's now globally made available to all business schools, management schools, to scientific areas. So how we can actually take it to the early school education system and look at how we can reform and maybe transform with this design thinking
Yeah, absolutely.
that we
Yes.
want to build within the
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just out of curiosity, I'd like to know, because the way we are looking at in our country, spreading design education in schools. I because I think you have already been into it. Would you like to share something about your experiences in this?
The strength of Finland has been, and in many other countries, of course, too, that in schools, like even in kindergarten, we educate arts teachers at the universities, like the one Aalto University is having. That we educate really people that pedagogically bring the DNA chip into the existence of the pupil, of the student. And by listening to Archana, I was just posing a question or inviting all of us to think that when there is a moment that design DNA is embedded in every newborn person, or should we have a process that we should be installing a design chip impacting the DNA that this is really rooted on this planet? But the art education in university system is important because, like in Finland, the schools have educated teachers, art teachers, that then are creating the route for designers.
Yeah.
Of course, creating the route for creativity, but we have music classes as well, and I don't know how they collaborate, but education is the thing. May I get back to Archana that we always need visionary, radical people to change. I mean, rules are to be broken, so I'm a fan of this kind of system. And a question I can only say here as an individual, but do we have education? So like education as such as it is defined now, that artisan can teach another one to become an excellent designer.
Yes.
Where do we need education for what?
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. There's a lot to learn from this. But Srini, that brings me to to prompt you on one thing. See, you've seen both. I mean, you're from you've in India as well as there uh, in other parts of the world. I mean, is there something that you would like to transfuse into the design learnings at whatever levels, school levels, college levels, from all your experiences there? Because you know the pulse of the country or the citizens or the future change makers, let's say.
Yeah, I think like in most entrepreneurs, the first thing that you need is passion, right? Which is what Archana has, and she did not mention it. I will do it for her. Also, you need to have the passion to meet with people. Okay, it's not because you know the next door neighbor is the president of Apple or the president of the United States. Doesn't matter, but you must have the willingness and the passion to bring that energy to go and say and stop by and say hello, right? I think that's what makes very interesting aspect when you move around the world to make friends. And Archana is not famous in India, but also outside just because of that quality. To reaching out to people is a special quality. In fact, long time back, one of my customers mentioned, he does not waste, in fact, he does not have a meal by himself ever. He says, that's an opportunity.
Okay.
I don't want to eat at home. I said, how could you, are you not getting bored of, going into the restaurant and looking? He says, no. To me, that's secondary. To me, whom I'm meeting is my primary passion. And I want to meet every day, every meal, someone else. So, I mean, he has obviously, he has it's a deck of, some 100,000 cards because, he has met so many people and he says, I may not meet that person again for a few months, but if I want and when I want, I can pull up and say, hey, we had breakfast at this place, we had dinner at that place. So he makes very elaborate notes on his meetings. So to me, that's what is a lesson that you learn by bringing the passion into your life to see what you want to achieve. You may not achieve because it's not easy just because you meet the prime minister of a country that you can get things done for you. But the passion for you is to keep chasing your dream. And that's what, I have done, from coming from wherever I was to different parts of the world. For me, anytime to meet somebody is always welcome because you learn something and you also build a first-time bridge that may last a longer time, but at least you have a bridge to connect with somebody in some culture and some other part. So I think that drives your passion. And as designers, we are always creative and we're looking for ways to do something. And while we are talking, while we're listening, our inner mind says, what else can I do to solve this problem? What else can I ask, to create some area where we can work together? I think that's inborn quality, and that's not, that's what you call as your, designerly brain, as opposed to your engineerly brain, because there you'll just look at the metrics and say, this is what we could do, this is what we cannot do. But for designers, sky is the limit, right? Therefore, we try and do that. As far as bringing different experiences, to me, the partnerships are very critical and vital, because what you don't know, what you can't do, you can always get inspired by the partnerships. And as long as you are very honest and openly talk about, what you want in a partnership, a lot of times you can get things done. If you don't discuss what you're looking for in a partnership, it will continue. It will continue and it will continue. There's nothing wrong, but you will never reach your goal or the manzil, right? So you really want to make sure that at some point in time, you're going to say, this is what you want to do, right? So I think it makes sense. If it is not, it's okay. You can create a different level of relationship. But when you're looking at a partnership in terms of what you want to achieve together in business or in design education, then it's easy to state that and work in a way which is moving you towards that particular goal.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. I mean, time.
Yes, time. I was watching.
Time. And see, our conversation can go into your entire day or into our nights, and it can lead to really interesting. But I think let's respect the Einsteinian time and what we have been talking about all this time. Really, you know what? Connecting the dots we all talked about. And today I see spaces here on my screen. One from San Francisco, is that?
Yes.
The other from Finland, the other from India, and we are connecting these dots. All right. In some way or the other, we are connecting together, and we have come to some very interesting outcome of this. And I think whoever is viewing us, I'm sure, has so-called, I won't call it learned, but I'll say, been able to be with us and agree to a lot of things that we have said from different perspectives. And we talked about DNA and bringing that at a level where it can train the future design leaders is what we need today. So with this note, I would like to request Archana ji, the host of this session, to just give a parting word of thanks.
Thank you, Bhargav sir. My very first thanks to you, because you have shared my vision of building this culture of design, and we are together making a difference. And and we've done these dialogue series, and we started out in April. And this session on design leadership, we've covered already creativity and education. We've covered, we've also covered society. But the next session is going to be on harmonious livability. So today's design leadership session, I think, was very enriching for all of us. And with two very eminent design leaders, with Aya being for such a long time as a Secretary General of Cumulus, and connecting the dots across the globe. Can you see? I mean, we are all doing that. And when Srini talked about, how having a meal with a person and the passion with that he's connected. He's not from the academic community, purely an industry person, now connecting the dots with the academy as well. So I think it's so interesting that, this morning, his morning and my evening. So, we're going to have a amazing night's sleep, and he's going to have an amazing day. And Aya has still another couple of hours of the day to go ahead with. So thank you so much for being here with us. And we really look forward that the PCDC, though after the COVID, there are some challenges because people may travel or not travel at this point of time in January. But last year, during the Fashion Colloquium, we had 250 participants. We had 60 researchers. We had 30 plus higher education institutions. And from 15 countries, we had the representation, and that was bang on in January 2020. So again, we were very hopeful that we're going to have such an event this year, but in January again. So hopefully, let's see. But we definitely look at a lot of your support in getting these researches and dialogues come from different parts of the world. So Aya and Srini, your contribution and support would be very, very relevant. And thank you so much for making it possible. And I just felt that, I love this. I think we need to all do it. Oh, I'm not that good at like you. You've got a proper heart. Okay. So all of us can do that.
That it?
Okay. That's nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's such a nice way of expressing. Really.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I just felt that the Confluence is not a 2-day event. So we did the learning series. We had 16 amazing people speak on various topics, again on design leadership, harmonious livability, society, and creativity. And we thought, why not have these dialogues almost spread over around 9 months of time duration rather than just a 2-day event. So all this is available on YouTube, and we've had the most amazing time doing these dialogues and the chat sessions and the workshops and everything. So thank you so much for all your support, and thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Right?
Thank you.
So have
Bye-bye.
a great
Bye.
time ahead, and see you very soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Yes.
everybody, for being
Take care.